Hey guys, it's Scott from Let's Play Easy Mode, and today on this early morning, we are going to talk about Halo. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you're new here, then welcome to the channel. And if you're one of our regulars, then welcome back. I say early morning because it is early morning for me. Let me ask you a question. When you are sleeping at night, and do you ever have this thing where like all of a sudden you wake up in the middle of the night with eyes wide open because your brain just turned on in the middle of your sleep and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't do this thing. Oh, you ever get that? Because that happens to me all the time, especially the older I get, I tend to do that. And this morning, I found myself, like, I'm sleeping, I had a weird dream, I woke up, and then all of a sudden, the very first thought that hits me was, oh my gosh, I didn't do the Halo review yet. Because when I finished Halo Infinite, like, a while back now, I never took the time to talk about the series as a whole. And that's one thing that I told you guys that I was going to do, was that I didn't, the video had gone on long and I didn't want to add a conversation about the Halo universe as a whole onto Halo Infinite. I really wanted to bookend the series with a discussion about it because we had been in Halo for over a year. So then I woke up this morning and I'm like, I need to go make some coffee in the Let's Play Easy Mode mug and do this right now while I'm in the mood. It's, you know, currently right now, it's early on a Sunday morning. Everybody else is in bed. And I figured I'd go ahead and just come down to the YouTube studio here of mine and talk about this with you guys. Oh, that's good. For those of you who don't know, it was around November of 2022. I can't believe it was in 22 now that we started this Halo journey through all of the games. And it was kind of funny because at the time I kind of thought there's going to be people out here who don't actually believe that I, as really a lifelong gamer, I started playing games at the age of like 11 and grew up with every console, had a Nintendo, and then have been playing games ever since. And I've been playing, you know, all these modern games as, you know, time went on, and I thought there's no one who's gonna really believe me when I tell them that I've never actually played Halo. And because everybody else has. Anyone with an Xbox has played Halo. There's a lot of people who have an Xbox because of Halo, and they've stayed in the Xbox family because of Halo. And, you know, I was just one of those guys who I had a PlayStation. I had a PlayStation 1, I got a PlayStation 2. During those times, I had friends who ended up getting into Xbox, like the first one, the very first one, and then the 360. I did get a 360, but at that point, Halo 3 was out and I never really played a lot of Halo. And I was more of a Mass Effect guy, you know. And it was really funny because I would occasionally see it over people's shoulders. You know, I always had people say, hey, you want to try this multiplayer? And I would sit down and try like a Halo 3 multiplayer level, but it didn't mean anything to me. There wasn't any story backing up what I was seeing. It was just a bunch of, you know, space paintball. And so I knew that when I started this channel, I mean, I started this channel with Half-Life, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, if I'm gonna do a channel based on games I've never played before, classic titles, then I gotta think the number one on the list is gonna be Halo, because that's just such a huge pop culture icon now within video gaming, right? I mean, that game, it's not just one game, it spawned an entire series, it spawned little like animated movies, and it's also spawned, I haven't seen it yet, but from what I hear from you guys, a fairly crappy TV show. And I knew, okay, there's gonna come a point where I'm just gonna go ahead and dive into this. And I actually held off for a while because back in the day, a lot of you guys know my friend Kurt and I had talked about maybe doing that on the channel together as like a multiplayer co-op thing, where he could actually come on the channel with me and we could play that game together. And unfortunately, with schedules and work things, and then eventually, ultimately, me moving across the country, that was just not going to be in the cards. But I started Halo, the first game, in 2022, and it was November, and I started it, and it didn't take long before all of a sudden I started seeing the community here at Let's Play Easy Mode growing in numbers over that series. And I always kind of thought that maybe in the back of my head that the way that other games like Breath of the Wild had started building up because of that fan base, started adding to our numbers here at Easy Mode, the Halo was going to do the same thing because of how passionate the fan base is for the game Halo. And I realized pretty quickly when I started playing the first game just what kind of sacred ground, especially that first trilogy is, that was created by Bungie. And we'll talk about a little bit later the differences between the Bungie games and the 343 games. But first I want to talk about the first game. When I first started playing that, it didn't take long for me to realize how passionate the fan base was. And that actually made me a little bit nervous because I thought, my gosh, I am handling something that is very sacred to people, because Halo is one of those things that so many people kind of grew up pardon me, kind of grew up with the game Halo. Just like for me, growing up with old Nintendo games that nowadays I may go back and if I ever play them again, I might go, oh my gosh, this is super clunky. But, you know, as a kid, I've got childhood memories. I almost have, you know, smells and tastes associated with certain Nintendo games because they're not just about Nintendo games, right? What I remember is growing up in my home and drinking my mom's iced tea and having a certain snack while playing that game and what it meant to me as a kid, you know, in those forming years. And a lot of people have that experience with Halo, whether they were a kid playing Halo with their friends, with their mom's iced tea and certain snacks, or whether it was what I hear from a lot of people, a game that they had like in college that was something they just played with all their buddies all the time. And it was so groundbreaking compared to everything else that was being made at that time. Nobody had ever suspected that Microsoft was going to come out with a console. It came out with Xbox, and then it came out with Halo. And a lot of people wanted to be different and just, I'm going to try this new console out. And they bought an Xbox, and then they got Halo. And then it didn't take long before they were like, oh my word, this thing's going to be like a movie. Because it was all about new aliens and new lore and new mythology. And there was a backstory to Halo that was starting to develop, you know, and we were introduced to, you know, the Covenant and just how like crazy they were and the politics involved in that. And we got introduced to Master Chief and Cortana, Chief and Cortana. And so there was a little bit of added pressure to that because I started realizing like, oh man, like I want to be honest, I want to be transparent about my time here, but I need to remember that I'm also like with this game, there also comes a whole lot of very passionate feelings for people. And if you don't tread lightly, you can also risk hurting someone's feelings because it's more than just a game to them. It's a part of them. It's their childhood. I totally identify with that because I've got experiences like that as a kid or in my younger years, just things I shared with friends. And so I totally understand that. And so I realized, okay, there's really a sense of respect going into this series that you need to do. But at the same time, I also wanted to be honest about it and give you guys kind of my own perspective. And the thing that was really interesting for me was actually not experiencing Halo the way that other people did. Like, I didn't grow up with Halo. I didn't play it really at the time that it came out. So I was really glad to have the Master Chief Collection. While I personally think, based on what I've researched and what you guys have told me in the comments, there are definitely downsides to the Master Chief Collection if you want the original Halo experience. That's not what that is going to give you. It doesn't even give you credits at the end of the game. But what it does give you is a little bit of a fresh coat of paint. And that is nice for someone like me if you're diving into Halo for the first time, now in the 2020s, and so getting into it, I could totally see where the fandom came from. I started seeing, okay, this is where I've heard of this before. It was kind of funny to see, Cortana in the beginning and Sergeant Johnson and, Master Chief and watch those characters get developed through the series, for good or for bad. But playing that first game was a lot of fun, and it didn't take long for the easy mode community to grow from it, and then start seeing so many wonderful people from the Halo community, people who just enjoy watching Halo content on YouTube, who started coming and watching it here. And I think most of you guys stuck around, so thank you for that. And it's been really kind of cool to see how the different conversations have happened, because Halo can be a polarizing conversation, and I've been very thankful that for the folks in our community who have handled their conversations for the most part with dignity and respect, because man, there are some really different opinions about Halo in the way that it was developed and in the way that I think people feel about it. And a lot of it, I think, is because of what I just talked about. It's for some people, the game represents more than just pixels on a screen. It represents a time of their life that's very sacred to them. But we played the first game, and I really enjoyed it. And I tried to play it from the perspective of, okay, this game came out in what, 2000, 2001, I think is when the first Halo game came out, maybe 2002. But, I'm trying to remember when the first Xbox came out, because I think Halo came out either at the same time or relatively around the same time. But, there were times I thought, okay, it's a little on the clunky side. Again, it was nice for me as a modern gamer to be able to, and I say modern gamer as someone who is picking up Halo for the first time in this day and age. It was nice to be able to have the Master Chief Collection fresh coat of paint on it. Though, I do think that fresh coat of paint covered up some really cool things as well. That I was really thankful that version that they give us gives you that back button on the controller where you can toggle back and forth from modern graphics to the original. Because I made this point, there were certain things that I think the remaster did an injustice with on the first game, because it took away some of that darker side of it. Even though, yeah, they were kind of clunky looking graphics by today's standards, there was a mood, there was a feeling. It was very ominous. The first time you see the flood and you hear the music and it's darker, man, it was totally different when you look at the first game, and then you turn on modern graphics from the Master Chief Collection. And I mean, it wasn't this, but in comparison, I think I even said this during a video once, it was like going from an ominous, scary sci-fi thriller to like a kid's birthday party because it was just so bright and colorful. And then those little creatures that come at you and then pop, I started saying they were like space confetti, because when you would kill them with the modern graphics, they were like, bee, like it was very different, versus like the ominous original graphics. The music was a little different, I think, in the remaster as well. And so I enjoyed the toggling back and forth. If for nothing else, I enjoyed modern graphics, but I enjoyed seeing what it was in the beginning. I didn't take me long to get attached to certain characters that I was eventually going to lose. Luckily Master Chief is the constant throughout the whole series, but I really took to Captain Keyes and Sergeant Johnson, and I got really hooked into Cortana, but we'll talk about that later. But I really enjoyed that first game. I like, as far, I use famously, you know, loosely, because, you know, it's a small channel. I am not famous. But I famously on the channel, like, hated the Warthog run. And you know what? I've had some time to process that, and I've had some time to think about it. And because it was so crazy. Literally, like, 50% of the audience agreed that it was a difficult thing that wasn't implemented great. And then there was the other 50% of the audience that was, like, passionately like, how in the world can you put down the Warthog run? How dare you? And again, probably because of memories of sitting there laughing with their friends while, you know, the Warthog was, like, bouncing on the moon bounce, falling all over the place, you know, and they're laughing. Me, I was looking for something different. I was playing it alone, relatively speaking, right? I'm with you guys, but I'm playing it alone, and I'm trying to get through the mission, and the Warthog's bouncing all over the place. And so, like, that was the one thing that I took away from that game. Like, oh my gosh, like, this level, I hate it with a passion. But with a passion, so many people love it. And it was so funny, like, how differing opinions are, because there are a lot of people who felt the way that I felt, and there are a lot of people who almost didn't like me anymore because of the way I felt about the Warthog run. And I will tell you guys that now, it's been a long time, right? We started playing that game in November of 2022, and now I've had over a year to process the ending of that game and to think about it. And in hindsight, I will tell you, I haven't changed my mind at all. I hate that Warthog run. But, you know, it did get better for me. I think the Warthog game mechanics did improve as the series went on. Getting into Halo 2, I think it's Halo 2 was my second favorite in the series. I mean, a lot of you guys who followed the series know that Halo Infinite was actually my favorite. But Halo 2 was my favorite of the original trilogy, and it was fantastic. I loved the Master Chief Collection version of the game. I thought the new graphics didn't do it a disservice, especially once I went back and I started seeing what they used to look like. And I think the cinematics were like watching a movie. I love the parallel storytelling. I thought it was so cool to see, the Arbiter, and to see Master Chief and how different their stories were. The way Master Chief was treated for the victories of the first game, and the way the Arbiter was dealing with the repercussions with the Covenant based on his failure in the first game, and then seeing how eventually those story arcs were written to come together. And I really enjoyed the gameplay in that. I enjoyed the story immensely. And I will look back at the original trilogy. For me personally, Halo 2 was my favorite of that. And then moving into Halo 3, you know, I thought that, okay, this was it. This is going to be like the Return of the Jedi, you know, within the series, and it was awesome. And I love the ending. I thought it was awesome how, you know, when Master Chief overcame the Covenant and finally ended the Covenant, and, you know, then so many people, or so many aliens from the Covenant started reuniting with humans, and I guess not even reuniting, because I mean, they've always been on opposing sides, but they finally came together. And I really enjoyed it. You know, the Arbiter, you see the Arbiter kind of looking out into space, you know, and thinking really highly of Master Chief at that point. And I always kind of felt like, okay, there definitely needs to be a sequel to this game. And knowing that there were, I mean, that, you know, I was like, okay, but I'm sitting here thinking, what would it be like in the moment? You know, like if I had only ever played that first trilogy, like a lot of you guys did at the time that it came out, I thought, man, I would have a really hard time waiting for Halo 4, because I'd want to know what happens to Master Chief and Cortana as they're floating off into space together, and he goes into sleep, and she's just sitting there staring at him because, you know, she's got the same sleep problems apparently that I do. Oh, that's good. And it was awesome. But then we got ODST, which was a really fun game. And then we got Halo Reach, and that was a really fun game. And I think at that point, did Halo Wars, I'm trying to remember, did we do Halo Wars before Halo 4 or Halo Wars after? Either way, I always thought like, man, it could have been really hard because that's years and years that went by trying to wait for, what happens next. And then Halo, we played ODST. We saw Nathan Fillion. I thought that game was a real standout, real treat to play. It was a little more challenging. It was a little darker because there wasn't like a remaster of ODST. So it kind of gave you that original trilogy darkness about it too. And it was also tough too because we got to kind of see it a little bit more from the civilian side. And I thought that was really awesome, like getting the stories of what happened with ODST and the, just in that city, and really thinking of it more like, okay, we always see it from the soldier's perspective, but what if you're just a person living in the world and now your world has been invaded by this hideous, horrible, alien army that's just looking for your destruction? Like, how scary would that be, right? And it's not like the average person is going to fight in the lead. So, I thought it was really cool that those games, I think, kind of filled in the backstory a little bit. And it was really neat to get that. Some of the videos that we watched and did reactions to, I thought those were really cool. And then we got into Halo 4. And once we got into Halo 4 and we started seeing the 343 era of Halo, that's when I could really sense a change in the series. Not just because of the actual games, but because of the community. There were a lot of people who said, hey, I'm here for this, but once you're done with the Bungie games, I'm checking out and I'm not watching anymore. And I sat back and I thought, really? Like, I thought we had a good thing going, And it wasn't personal. It was just, I really don't like the 343 games. And so for some people that was their off ramp, and then for other people, there were people who like more people came in and said, oh, you're playing some of my favorite ones in the series now. And it was, so that's the difference in the community. There's definitely, I've mentioned this before, maybe we can talk about this again later. It reminds me, my way of relating to this is my fandom of Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. But it kind of reminded me a little bit of that, where you've got the Lucasfilms, the original trilogy, which is like sacred ground, right? And you have this incredible story that could be just capped off as a trilogy and never touched again. And in some ways, you could make an argument that it should have stayed that way. And then you get, we'll just say the prequels are kind of like what you get with ODST and Reach, and the animated films that are like backstories and stuff like that. And if I'm being honest, I know that's a polarizing conversation as well. So I'm not insulting ODS and ODST and Reach by comparing them to Jar Jar Binks by any means. But then you've got 343 taking over the series, just like you have Disney taking over Star Wars. And then for a lot of people, that's the off-ramp. It's like, I don't really want this anymore. I don't like what they've done to the franchise. And I get that. I understand it. For me, Halo 4 was difficult to play, but I liked the story more than Halo 5, which I actually found a lot of fun to play, but I didn't like, just because I like happy endings, and I didn't like what was happening with Cortana. I didn't like losing Cortana at the end of Halo 4. I thought it was beautiful how she gave herself up for Chief, and that was really, I think, the last, I think Cortana as we knew her, at least the way I understand, you could make an argument that Cortana really did die in Halo 4. And then, Halo 5 was just like fragments of her left that became corrupt. At least that's how it was explained to me. So, you know, Halo 4, Halo 5, I will admit, they weren't my favorite ones. And I started seeing how I love the graphics, I love the game mechanics of Halo 5. I didn't really like the difficulty of Halo 4. I'm the easy mode guy, remember, so I like my games nice and easy to just soar right through. And, you know, it's Halo 4 was not my favorite thing. Again, I liked the story in Halo 4 more than I liked the story in Halo 5, but at the same time, I liked the gameplay in Halo 5 more than I liked Halo 4. But then came my favorite game of the series, and I had no idea that it was going to turn into my favorite game in the series. I had a lot of people in the community telling me, look, just get through Halo 4 and 5. Infinite is going to totally redeem the 343 era. And there were a lot of people who, even when I originally started the very first game back in 2022, who said, okay, get yourself through this series because you are going to love Halo Infinite. And then there were, of course, some people who just said, I just like the original trilogy, the rest of it's trash. You know, so I didn't quite know what to expect, but all I knew it was persevere, 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 you know, because everybody keeps telling me that Infinite is going to be like my cup of tea. And wow, you guys really knew me on that. Halo Infinite was, to me, was this beautiful hybrid of original Halo trilogy, paying pretty good homage to it, while really embracing a new era of graphics and game design. It made me love Master Chief, and then it also, besides loving Master Chief again, not that I didn't like him, I didn't like as much of what 343 did with him in Halo 4 and Halo 5, but I really liked him in Halo Infinite. But then Halo Infinite introduced me to my favorite Halo character, which was actually Weapon. Which, yes, I know Weapon is pretty much Cortana, but I loved her personality. I mean, it was like I felt like the character, the voice acting, the you know, the chipper kind of bubbly personality. I'm like, oh my word, she could be like, if we could have our own AI here on easy mode, it would be Weapon. You know, like she would be perfect for that. Because I will be honest, I was pretty gut punched over what happened with Cortana. And so when Weapon came into the picture, I think a lot of other people, was a little bit like, ooh, I don't know if I trust you. I don't know if I like this. You're not Cortana. And I think for me at first, at least I don't even know if I verbalized this, but in my head, I was almost calling her like, okay, hi, we have Master Chief and not Cortana. But then it didn't take long at all for that character to win me over and to become a bigger fan of Weapon. And yes, I know we can talk about it, that was Cortana, like in her uncorrupted, purest, you know, form. But I fell in love with that character and how funny she was and bubbly and so kind. She really cared about Chief. And as I remember, throughout all of these games that we've played, from the very beginning, from when he was a kid, like watching the cutscenes in the movies, and then all the way through the original trilogy, 4 and 5, I think with everything he's been through, Weapon was the only one to genuinely and kindly and softly say, "Are you okay?" And I just loved her. I was so into that character, and I was so happy to see her make it and then kind of ride off into the sunset. Like, if Halo Infinite is our last Halo game, which I don't think it is, but if it is our last Halo game, I felt like it came full circle. I felt like we finally got Weapon was the version of Cortana that we wanted. At least I wanted. And we got to see Chief and her ride off into the sunset, and it kind of left it open, like when they were doing the whole like, what's your name gonna be? Once she found out exactly who she was, she even looked at Chief and she's like, is it okay? And he said, it's up to you. And she never really said what her new name was gonna be. But I mean, I think it left us being able to say, okay, if they never do this again, we finally get to the happy ending of Chief riding off into the sunset with Cortana, but like that kind of Cortana, that caring, young, uncorrupted, untainted, like just bubbly personality. And because I mean, man, by the second half of that game, the banter, and I don't even know if banter is really the right word, but the dialogue between Chief and her was extremely entertaining. And that, to me, story-wise, Infinite was a perfect 10. The game, the mechanics, and you guys who watch that series know I was obsessed, probably to an unhealthy level, with the grapple hook. I didn't really even want to do anything else in the game. I kept saying, hey, it's Spider Chief, because I was swinging around like Spider-Man, all over that Halo ring, and just having fun with the grapple hook, and it was beautiful. I thought the level design was gorgeous. I thought the character development was great. I loved the character of Echo. I thought Master Chief was totally redeemed, and he was, he was a tough guy again, and it was so awesome. And yes, there's a lot left open-ended. I mean, I would hope that that's not going to be the last game. I know that there's certainly a lot of discussion right now on the table about 343, I think, outsourcing the development to the game, but they're still going to be coming out with another Halo. I would imagine it's probably years down the line, and I hope that they stay, true to the ending of this game, where we see, young Cortana now, baby Cortana, or Weapon, or whatever you want to call her. We here at Easy Mode call her Weppy. I just loved it. I loved the open world. Oh my gosh, like Infinite was such a different game, but I loved it, and I loved the story, and I loved the graphics, and I loved the characters, and I loved the open world of it. I haven't done it yet, but I've actually been tempted to go back and do a live stream someday, maybe even on just Patreon, or maybe we'll just hang out someday and just do a live stream where I just go. I would love to just go back to that map and finish some of the stuff I didn't get a chance to do. And just explore it some more. But absolutely wonderful. So I felt like I was really happy that if this is my last Halo game, and if they don't make another one, I felt like they finally landed the plane really well with the series, and it opened it up for your imagination to run wild with where Chief is going to go from here. But I felt like we came full circle, where you find, like I said, I love that full circle feel where all was set, all the things that went wrong in the series, the way that Cortana went, like the way they ended the series with Chief and Cortana coming face to face, and her realizing her wrongs and then kind of rectifying that in that conversation, and then kind of passing the torch really to herself, as far as Weppy was concerned. Like, oh my gosh, I loved that, and I got super emotional. I found myself very teary-eyed over that. It was great storytelling for me, in my opinion, and yeah, I mean, Infinite by far was. I mean, we ended the series on a major high point, and it left me a huge Halo fan, and it left me a big fan of what's to come, with high hopes that this game set a new bar in the series that other people have enjoyed, and I really hope that 343 continues down this road. I would love to see the next Halo game be open world like this one again, and I would love to see them continue to focus on the story and on the characters and the writing, because this was really good to me. as a whole, I mean, it was a kind of a roller coaster ride through this series, right? Starting out with, like I said, kind of the sacredness of the original trilogy, going through some of those spin-off games, watching doing the reactions to some of the Halo story videos, and then getting into 4 and 5, and that kind of, to me, the roller coaster kind of dipped down a little bit, but then we came back up and we stayed up, with Infinite. And so as a whole, I mean, I'm very thankful that I can say now I've played all the Halo games. It took us like a year I think it took us 14 or 15 months to do. Yeah, I think it took us 14 months to do the whole series, to do all of them. And that was not an exhaustive playthrough. Like I said, there's a lot that I left out, or didn't discover. But it was absolute wonderful time, and for me, it was really awesome to see so many of you guys as a community come into the easy mode community. I feel as a Halo fan, I'm a part of you, part of that Halo fandom, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where they go. I'll be there with my Master Chief action figure. I'll be ready to go, with whatever they do. I'm reluctantly considering watching the series, at least giving it a shot, just to say I've seen it. But as a whole, guys, I'm very thankful for my time in the Halo universe, meeting the fans of Halo, and becoming one myself, learning the lore, and there's so much of it that I probably still don't know. There's a criticism I will give, and it's to do with the 343 era of games. If I had a major criticism that I don't think I could be talked down from, for me it was how much important story points were told in books, because I am just not gonna have the time. When I do read, I'm not reading a ton of video game fiction, guys. And so because of that, going from Halo 4 to Halo 5, where the main bad guy in Halo 4, who probably should have been the main bad guy, at least at the time it felt like he should have been the main bad guy throughout the whole new trilogy. It was like, I keep making these comparisons, but I see the parallels. It's like having Snoke introduced in The Force Awakens, and then thinking, okay, this is our new Emperor, this is our new bad guy, and then they kill Snoke off by the midway through the second movie in the trilogy. And then you're like, well, now what? That's kind of how I felt, but this didn't even happen in the movie or in the game, you get to the next one, and if it wasn't for you guys in the comments with, oh, here's what happened in this book, and then here's what happened in this book and this comic or whatever it might be, I was just like, how would I, as a casual gamer, understand any of this? If it wasn't for me having an audience, who's helping me along the way, it's just a guy picking up Halo for the first time. I wouldn't have known all these things took place. And really, in a lot of ways, the same thing happened between Halo 5 and Infinite. With Cortana and her character, and the Banished and everything else. It was like, oh, you need to look into all these other sources for the lore. That would be my major criticism with it. And I really hope they don't do that with the next game. I hope that, and if they do, I hope they give us the backstory really quickly, maybe in a montage in the beginning. I just don't want to get into another Halo game where, oh my word, it's like a whole book worth of story and character development and characters dying and everything else that I was attached to. I don't want to get into that by the next game and go, oh, well, I guess you should have bought the book. So that's my biggest criticism probably of the 343 era for me, is there were ups and downs in the games, but the thing that really I didn't like the most about the 343 era was the need to go outside of the games as much as they had. that need to get the story somewhere else. I didn't think that was that great for me. But other than that, you know, I'm very thankful that we have YouTubers out there who will make these lore videos that will fill you in on the story. So, you know, I watched a couple of those. But that's pretty much my major criticism with the 343 era, the biggest one. As a whole, I liked trilogy to trilogy. I liked the first trilogy better. Individual games, I liked Infinite the best. That's kind of where I'm at. If you're out there and you're watching this video, if you know, I've been rambling for a really long time. This is just I've been thinking about doing a new series of videos on the channel for these kinds of videos where we just say let's talk easy mode instead of let's play easy mode, just to have these conversations and stuff. But let me know in the comments your thoughts on the series as a whole, because honestly, I will be sentimentally, I give the series a 10 because of what it meant to me and the channel, to be able to meet you guys, to be able to experience it and finally say I've experienced Halo in its entirety. But game for game, I can't say it was a perfect series by any means. And if I was going to give you my final review of my time in Halo, I would give it a very strong 8. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on the series as a whole. You know, which games were your favorites? That's what I would like to know. What was your favorite game? What was your least favorite game, and why? I'd love to see those conversations down below. And man, that would be awesome. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I know it's been a lot of just me talking blah, 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 blah about Halo. And thank you guys so much for your time. And I'll tell you, it was awesome. And I'm very thankful that we had this time together. Anyway, guys, I love you so much. And thank you so much for hanging out with me and watching this video. If you enjoyed it, do me a favor and put a like on this video. Also, subscribe for more content. I'm not normally just talking at you like this. So if you want more videos like this, let me know that too. Hang out with us at Discord. The link for that is down below. And of course, you can always hop on over to the Patreon page, which you can go to by going to this link right here. Guys, it's been such a joy for me to play Halo, talk Halo, learn about Halo, and you know, also let me know if I really should dive into that TV series, because I don't know, I'm kind of on the fence about it. Anyway, I love y'all so much, and I will talk to you soon. But until then, take it easy.